I'm here with Elizabeth Ward, world traveler and bead collector. This is great, Elizabeth. What a wonderful way to collect and sort your beads.
Thanks for having me back.
You're welcome. So tell us about the lamp work.
Okay, these are part of my Czech glass bead collection. In this tray I put all of my lampwork glass beads, and here I put some of my pressed glass beads. And the lampwork beads are gorgeous. They're made one at a time by hand, and it's a very old, low-tech sort of technique for bead making. It's been around for centuries.
And it's nice that you can see them all here too. I mean, they're beautiful, and the clear cases lets you see what you have.
Yes, I'm like Midas in my studio looking at my beautiful beads. This tray filled with pressed glass, I love pressed glass beads.
They're so pretty too.
They're pretty and they're affordable. The reason they're affordable is that during the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century, machines were finally created that allowed the mass production of glass beads. Prior to that, they were made one at a time.
It's amazing.
And what I like are the beautiful rods that are used. They're fed into the top of the machine, they become molten, and then the molten glass is pressed into steel molds. So some of the glass rods you can see from these cards are not just one solid color. The actual rod of glass is 2 or 3 colors mixed together.
So it even starts out looking really unusual.
Really
before
unusual.
It gets turned into a bead. Beautiful.
And these are factory cards showing you not the glass rods, of course, but what the glass rods will look like when they're pressed into shapes.
That's so neat.
And the reason I love those multicolored glass rod is because even though each bead is pressed from the same mold, can you see how different each one looks? They all have slight variations in color.
They're treasures for sure.
Beautiful. And the other thing that's interesting about pressed glass beads is that it was largely a cottage industry. So even now when you drive through the Czech countryside, you can see houses that have certain kinds of chimneys and vents in their home, and that's where the beads were made.
Oh, wow.
So this, for example, this was a family, the Nickel family, and this card shows the beads that they made for sale.
Right there at home.
Exactly, and they often sold them through other trading companies, but these were the molds that they owned and these were the beads that they pressed.
It's so interesting, I think, the history too behind all of these treasures. And then we get to make beautiful things with them.
Exactly.
So you were inspired by some of the ornaments that you collected on your travels as well.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do was to visit the antique stores, and I loved when I found these little beaded ornaments because, you know, seed beads, which most of these are largely made from seed and bugle beads, they're not expensive, but I mean, how beautiful is something like this motorcycle? So ornate and probably very time-consuming to make. So when I was looking at my collection of beaded ornaments, I thought, how can I use my own beads to make some pretty ornaments for my tray? So what I did was I found some very simple frames at my local craft store. This one is for a snowflake. This is a simple one for an icicle. And I decided to integrate some of my lampwork and pressed glass beads into these ornaments.
Oh, I love what you did. And this is a good idea.
Yeah, this one was fun. You know, at first I was a little discouraged because I didn't have 6 of the same beads. But then I realized that it didn't have to be the same.
Right, and you can't even tell at first glance, but also, you know, every snowflake is unique.
Exactly.
Perfect.
So it's even more special
Great
for that
way to display
reason.
your collection too.
So certainly these snowflake frames are very easy to find in a local craft store, so I thought I would give a very brief technique description of how I made this.
Okay, sure. How do you do it?
So there's 6 spokes. I'm going to bead and fold the last spoke on this one so that it will look like this.
Okay.
So the first bead is a tiny little seed bead.
So when you're designing these, you can really lay it out depending on what type of beads you have, maybe what color you want, or what beads you want to display.
And really, just like for this, if you have some knockout beads and you don't have too many of them, it just makes a keepsake, an heirloom ornament,
Definitely.
in my opinion. Okay, so my pattern here is very simple. I have some fire polish beads. This is another pressed glass bead, another fire polish. Now these are very strong frames and they can be difficult to bend. So what I do is I leave about ½ an inch free.
Plenty of room then.
Plenty of room so you're not trying to twist a tiny little piece of wire. So my technique is I bend this into a right angle.
Okay, and you used your chain nose pliers for that.
Exactly. Now I'm picking up my round nose pliers, and what I see people do that's wrong is they pull up. You want to actually not pull up. If you can resist the urge to pull up, that would be great. And just roll it towards you. So you can see I've almost got that closed. Now I'm going to go back in there, and you really do want to get that perfectly closed, because if you don't, the beads could fall off. So then it's ready to hang.
Perfect.
I can either use a piece of ribbon, or I can just use a regular Christmas tree hook. There you go.
It's so pretty, and you know, you could make sun catchers with these too.
Absolutely, they would be beautiful.
And with the Aurora Borealis finish, really pick up the light.
And I've seen people take wire and wire beads through the loop, so you can make them very, very, very complicated.
Yeah, and this one too, on the purple snowflake here, it looks like you use some that have foil lining.
Yeah, you know, that's my favorite, when the lamp workers stop in the middle and then roll the molten glass in a thin sheet of silver and then continue to layer the glass on top. That shimmer is so beautiful to me, and I do have quite a few beads in my collection that are foil beads.
And I like the way that you added the bead caps too. It adds a little more finished look to the middle beads there.
Yeah.
Right here.
Hey, maybe I could wear this as a pendant. Do you think that's
I guess
too
you
much?
could. You could.
That's
Big night out.
beautiful.
Well, let's take a look at your ornaments too that you've collected here.
So some of my favorites are travel related. For example, we have an airplane, we have a train, a bike, a motorcycle. These seem to be very popular themes in this
Yeah.
ornament making. But I also noticed that they like to do little children as well.
And they're so fun, and what a great memento of your travels. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.